Good evening. My name is Allie Webster, and I'm the president of the Northern Iowa Student Government. I want to welcome everyone to this evening's debate. I also want to thank the three nonpartisan organizations who are sponsoring this debate, namely Women of Action, Cedar Falls Waterloo Branch of the American Association of University Women of Iowa, and the organization in which I represent, the Northern Iowa Student Government. Next, I want to extend my thanks to our two moderators for assisting us conduct a fair and civil debate, namely Dr. Allison Rank, Director of UNI's Center for Civic Education, and Dr. Scott Peters, Professor and Head of UNI's Department of Political Science and Criminology. Our timekeepers for tonight's debate are Gabriel Salazar, NISG Vice President, and Dr. Steve Corbin, Emeritus Professor of Marketing at UNI. We're grateful that the City of Cedar Falls for permitting us to host the debate in the council chambers, as well as to Cedar Falls Cable Channel 15 for broadcasting this debate. There is only one position vacancy in the City of Cedar Falls, where there are two or more candidates seeking office, and that is in Ward 3. Since there is only one official declared candidate for the office of mayor, Ward 1, Ward 5, and the at-large position, there will be no questions asked of those candidates. The timekeepers will apprise candidates when they have 15 seconds left of their allotted time, and a red-colored stop sign will be displayed to apprise candidates their time has expired. Due to the 1 hour we have allocated for tonight's debate, I ask that all candidates to not exceed their allotted time period. Thank you for keeping your answers focused, concrete, and to the point. Should a candidate go beyond their allotted time period, the moderators and timekeepers have the debate's sponsor's permission to interrupt him, move on to the next question or rebuttal debate discussion opportunity, and if necessary, penalize the candidate's time the next time he is asked to respond to a question. Residents of Cedar Falls were given the opportunity to submit candidate questions either online or by telephone. Prior to tonight's debate, the moderators were given the questions submitted by the public prior to the debate. Due to the professional background of our moderators, they have been given the privilege to modify questions, should they so desire, for the sake of clarity. Each of the three city council candidates for Ward 3 will be allotted 90 seconds for their opening remark, 1 minute for their closing statement, and we ask that they keep responses to debate questions in 60 seconds or less. Should any candidate want to make a rebuttal comment, he will be limited to 30 seconds to make their case. Moderators have permission to stop the rebuttal commentary if they feel the issue being discussed has sufficiently been aired. Each of the three Cedar Falls residents seeking public office in Ward 3 were mailed as well as emailed the debate schedule and debate protocol I just shared with you. All other candidates for public office were apprised that this debate would only involve candidates seeking Ward 3 office. I now turn the debate over to our moderators for them to ask the first question.
We'd like to begin by offering the opportunity to make opening statements.
Me first?
Sure.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Darrell Cruz. I'm the current city councilor for Ward 3, predominantly west of Hudson Road, down to University and up Timber Ledge area. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to all the parties involved in putting this together. My background, I've been a personal and business financial analyst for 39 years, going on 40. I have a strong background in investments, insurance, budgeting, cash flow, retirement, estate planning, tax planning, those sorts of things. I work with people and businesses in all ages, in all walks of life. Essentially, the city of Cedar Falls is one of my clients, you could say. Grew up in Northeast Iowa, small dairy farm. Turkey Valley is my high school, if anybody is familiar with that. It's a little 8-man football school now. It hasn't shrunk away to nothing yet, so it's hanging in there. I worked briefly in tool and die work before entering University of Northern Iowa, studied finance and economics. During those years, I did an exchange program to Northern California, studying finance as well. And that was quite the eye-opener, a farm boy from Iowa going to California. That was an experience. I've held several positions on the College Hill Partnership over 3 years. I'm a pragmatic decision maker, a very principled person. I'm not conservative, liberal, far left, far right, libertarian, Green Party, or even communist. Everybody's money is green. We got to pay our bills, and that's what I believe in. As many of you know, I don't rubber stamp city staff proposals, ask for more transparency, and so on. I'm at your service, and I ask for your vote November 4th.
Thank you. Mr. Manning, would you like to make your opening remarks?
You bet. Thank you to the organizers for putting this together. This is the second time I've seen Allie. She got to make a presentation at the Campanile earlier today, and so now we're kind of like old friends, I guess. And but I was born and raised in Waterloo. I lived there for 55 years. I've been in Cedar Falls for 15 years, and I intend to be here as long as I was in Waterloo. So that'd be another 40 years, and oh boy, that gets me right up there, I guess. I was a graduate of Columbus High School in Waterloo, and a graduate of Iowa State University. My majors were finance, economics, and public speaking. The economics, boy, after a while looking at graphs, that gets to be tough, and so I had to gut my way through that. We've got 4 children and 9 grandchildren, and they are really the spice of our lives. Two of the families live in Des Moines area, Ankeny and Waukee, and 2 of them live here in the Cedar Valley area. So now they used to live on the West Coast, and so we were very glad when they came closer to Des Moines. I look forward to our conversation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nagel?
Thank you. Good evening. First, I would like to thank the sponsors of the debate for organizing the event. Thanks for putting this together so people can learn about the candidates. Very important in today's society. I'm Tom Nagel, and I'm running for the Ward 3 City Council seat because I believe our community deserves leadership that listens, acts with integrity, and delivers results. My focus is simple: transparency, engagement, and common sense solutions. I'll ensure city decisions are open and clear, with budgets and plans that are accessible to all, with a focus on honest communication. Engagement means hearing your voice through town halls, open forums, public comments, or just conversations out and about in the community. And with common sense, I'll tackle the challenges that we face with practical, cost-effective solutions that prioritize our families, businesses, quality of life, and our future. Cedar Falls thrives when we can work together. I'm here to serve, listen, and lead with the citizens in mind. I look forward to this conversation this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. We'd like to start by asking if you could each summarize some of your community involvement over the last, say, 3 to 5 years. You've talked a bit about your professional accomplishments, but more generally, how have you been involved in the community? And with this question, we'll start with Mr. Cruz and work our way across.
Okay, last 3 years. Well, as I mentioned, and most people know, I'm an active member of the City Council. Troubleshoot whatever is happening out there. I myself am a landlord of college rentals. I'm very involved with the Landlords of Iowa organization and local groups of people that are promoting fair housing and good housing for students. I'm very extensively involved in that. Work with various communities within my ward as far as things like getting a roundabout where we would like to see one, or the community would like to see one, and meet with the groups on their specific concerns, that sort of thing. So.
Thank you. Mr. Manning?
Go ahead. Okay. I've enjoyed, I have to throw this in because I was president of the Waterhawks ski team 40 years ago. I know that didn't quite fit that time period, but that was one of my super joys. although I was able to jump 107 feet and land on my skis. I was able to go 112 feet and land upside down, and that's when I decided I should be the announcer rather than one of the skiers. But after that, I've always been involved in either my kids or my own activities. The Cedar Trails Partnership, when I was president of that, we had there were concerns about not knowing where the bicyclist was at when they were on our trails. So they that 15 seconds kind of throws me off there. Excuse me. We put in 122 signs around the Cedar Valley. First, we found the funding, and then we proceeded with that.
Thank you. Mr. Nagel.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm involved with Main Street, Cedar Falls Community Main Street. I'm on the design committee for that group. That leads to a lot of volunteer opportunities, decorating for Holiday Hoopla, various volunteer things. Helped out with Cedar Falls Ragbri when they came through. I'm also on the Mercy One Cedar Falls Foundation, recent past president of that organization. An active member with the Cedar Valley Association for Soft Trails. They work to maintain soft trails in George Wythe Park for mountain bikes, snowshoes, trail runners, all the things. And I'm also a Grow Cedar Valley ambassador.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. For our next question, we'll start with Mr. Manning and then move to Mr. Nagel and Mr. Cruz. So the next question we'd like to ask is, how do you plan to engage citizens in budget decisions, major infrastructure projects, and rezoning or development proposals?
Boy, that's a long question, and I'm not going to make it in the 90 seconds, I know. The reconstruction, go ahead and ask that again if you would.
Sure. How do you plan to engage citizens in budget decisions, major infrastructure projects, and rezoning or development proposals?
Okay. Rezoning allows the city to change what they think is going to happen over the next several years. And that's important information to be flexible there. But from the building standpoint, they like to know what they're supposed to have the property look like, or repaired to a certain point, or reimbursed or refurbished a house to a certain point. That's important that the developer know what's expected of them. There have been too many times that they've come to the council and they, or one of the staff people, and the staff people have changed the apparatus for understanding what the developer wants to do, and the developer understands, does not always understand what it is that their expectation is.
Mr. Nagel?
Thank you. This gets to one of the points I brought up during my opening comments. I think engagement is key. The method for engagement, I think, is open for discussion, but I think open public forums, getting the news out, getting citizens into this space, letting them take the microphone and discuss what the things that they see, getting the information out and in the public eye. I think the key thing is really just driving that engagement. The information is there for the people that want to look, but the tricky part is getting the people to look and understand that they need to look and dig into these things before it's too late.
Great. Mr. Cruz?
Thank you. So some of the things I've done over the last council terms, I've gone to various HOA meetings. I find out when they have those scheduled, when I can attend and hear what sort of complaints and concerns they have for their neighborhoods. I set up meetings sometimes with the mayor and some individuals, kind of a casual meeting with staff that are involved in whatever project they're concerned with. I've also called people after council meetings when they come up and give public comment, and do a little research for them and figure out what their issues are and concerns, so I go directly to them. So I keep a pretty good, fluent back and forth flow through my own dedicated landline, and then cell phone as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
We will start with Mr. Nagel for this one. What is your position on the current city government structure, city administrator, mayor, council roles? Are there reforms you think are needed?
Thank you. I think it is important for the city to have a city manager, a city administrator in some fashion. Exactly what form that takes, I think, is a grand debate that again, should engage the community and help us try to figure that out. So yeah, I definitely think we need a city manager or a city administrator. One of the points there would be, especially with a two-year term for the mayor, I think that city manager, a city administrator provides some consistency. As far as mayor, part-time, full-time, I think that's a whole nother discussion. You got to be careful. If you give a mayor part-time pay, you're going to probably get part-time effort out of them. And I also think it might unintentionally limit the potential candidates who would run for mayor, which could also be detrimental. So, but again, open for discussion and engagement with the citizens on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz?
Thank you. So we had quite the discussion on this through various council meetings. I even proposed whether we needed an administrator or not, and got quite a bit of feedback going back, I want to say 15 to 20 years or more maybe, that the department heads managed the city business and reported to the mayor. And things evolved to have a city administrator, which has worked out well. We've thrown around ideas on that. Personally, I think it's fine the way it is. I'm always open for suggestions with any issues, whatever it might be. But I look at it that the mayor sets the direction of the city based on feedback from the citizens, and we want that person to be full-time, fully engaged with the public as he goes out and about on his daily meetings and whatnot. City manager, city administrator, tomato, tomato, they're not elected, which many people ask me, could we have an elected city administrator? But obviously, protocol doesn't let that happen. So that's kind of how I stand on that.
Okay. Mr. Manning?
Thank you. The city government structure has been volleyball tossed back and forth in this community for quite some time. And now with the change in the head administrator, it's an opportunity to look at where we are at and where we're going with that. I don't have a strong opinion. I can see both sides of the equation, and so I'm looking for guidance from the electorate on what they want to do. You know, it's kind of like roundabouts many years ago. They were everybody was split about 50-50. And now when I've asked staff, they said, oh, it's about 90-10 in favor of roundabouts. So sometimes we don't like what we don't know, and sometimes what we don't know turns out pretty well.
Great, thank you. For this next question, we'll start with Mr. Cruz. The council has approved implementing the College Hill visioning document, which could mean new zoning to revitalize College Hill. That document, there was a vote to rescind that document in 2024. Are you in support of moving ahead with hiring a consultant to bring recommendations to the council?
Yes. Can you repeat that again? Because you sounded like...
Sure. The council has approved implementing the College Hill visioning document, which could mean new zoning to revitalize College Hill. There was previously a vote to rescind the document in 2024. Are you in support of moving ahead with hiring a consultant to bring recommendations to the council?
Yes. We did hire someone to speak and went in to a preliminary presentation of the various zones. My concern with that is that we get feedback from all the stakeholders. When you change the zones, you're taking away property rights for people because people build homes, build businesses with the existing zoning and the criteria for that zoning. Now you come in and change it and make it like prettier or whatever they may call it, and somebody's going to lose privileges and somebody's going to get privileges, and they're not necessarily going to jibe together. College Hill has been around 150 some years, well, 150 for the university. I guess that's exact. But you're looking at problems there. Got to have a lot of discussion, a lot of agreement, but the consultant is going through steps, and they're in motion to do so, to evaluate and get public feedback and that sort of thing, so.
Mr. Manning?
The College Hill Vision document is very similar to what was used in downtown Cedar Falls. And I would suggest that, that the downtown Cedar Falls has come back to us beautiful. And many people that I talked with, door knocking, says, I love Cedar Falls. And one of the reasons is because of our vibrant downtown. And some of the other reasons I've heard at the doors is because of the safety that they feel here, and the schools that we have here, and the other recreational activities. I intend, should I be elected, to concentrate on the Cedar Valley leisure activities, the Cedar Falls leisurely activities, and I'll go into that more later.
Mr. Engel?
I think it's important with the visioning document to engage the citizens and also engage the University of Northern Iowa. I've spent a fair amount of time in college towns over my years of existence, and it's really impressive to see what's happened to those towns over the last 20 or 30 years. But I don't think it happens without taking some risks. A lot of the development, I spent a lot of time in Iowa City, a lot of time in Champaign-Urbana, and a lot of the development that's happened is great, but it's silly to think that there weren't some pains that came along with it. So I really think it's important, again, for engagement with the citizens and also the university, because they've got a pretty big stake in that area as well.
All right, thank you. Let's see, I think we'll start with Mr. Manning on this one. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put the city on a firm financial footing?
Well, the question, Scott, suggests that we're not on financial footings of success right now. And I would say that with the reserves that the city has, the reason that we're getting such a high bonding rate, high being in this case low, but that's a tribute to what's been happened in the city of Cedar Falls over the last several years. And I'm excited to work on the budget as that comes up very soon, and is a big part of what a council person is supposed to do for the electorate. And I look forward to that. I want to work on the on leisure services. That's going to be a big one for me.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Nagel?
I think it all starts with the budget. Obviously, you can hear the saying in business, you got to spend money to make money. Being smart about where we're spending that money. So smart spending and smart incentives for development, but also being transparent with how those things are being carried out. I think those 2 steps would lead to the 3rd step of, yeah, you might spend some more money, but hopefully the revenue goes up, more businesses, more tax dollars, and it's kind of the circle of life, I guess, if you will, for a city government. Thank you.
Mr. Cruz?
Thank you. One of the very first things, well, the budget process, you start out with the wish list, what everybody wants, and you try to put reality to that, put the numbers to it, you discuss it. That's just the general overall format for it, but you have to look at what the TIF effects are going to have going into the future. We're diverting money with residential construction, which we didn't have before, to developers to develop the infrastructure, the streets and roads and so on. What's the effect going to be then when that comes out of the TIF? Are we going to get money dumped into capital projects, which they're doing now, or should it go into lowering the general fund, the costs, and put the money into the general fund to lower property taxes? We're not getting any lower property taxes. If you look at the trend of the millage rate over the last 5-7 years, or even longer, it was coming down pretty nicely, and then it sort of bottomed, and now we're trending up, and they just keep going up, and they don't put on the brakes. So there's a problem there. Thank you.
The city has had a marvelous reputation for the money that it collects and how it spends the money. And nobody likes property taxes. I mean, you can't go up to a house and say, hey, what do you think of the property taxes, without it coming back to you that, oh, they're out of line. But on knocking on several doors, they haven't brought that up at the doorways. They've brought up some other things that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Any other comments about finances? Okay, thank you.
All right. Our next question. As Cedar Falls continues to grow, how will you ensure that economic development benefits all residents, including renters, low-income families, and underrepresented communities, without pricing people out or deepening disparities? What specific policies or partnerships would you pursue?
And that's a great question. I was on the Cedar Falls Economic Development Corporation for the 2 or 3 years it was in existence, and one of the things that we did was have a citywide appraisal done on all the properties. And it came back with a list of recommendations that we, to help guide the committee. And it was a struggle to get it through the city council to be reimbursed for that. That was, we'll just call it a gentleman's understanding that didn't happen. So when that, we wanted to keep asking the city to fund these things, because part of it is required by the state, and we weren't successful there, so we had to disband. Initially, the people that were involved financed that with their own dollars rather than any city money, and it was after it was done that we came back and got city money to pay for it.
I think that's a really good question, actually. How to make sure economic development involves or benefits all citizens. I think it starts one, affordable housing is important, but it's also a challenge. Houses are pretty expensive in Cedar Falls. I think there needs to be discussions about how to kind of build up that housing stock at the lower end. I think the other side of it is jobs. The more jobs, the better. Higher paying jobs, the better, obviously. But the opportunities are there, making sure we're doing the things that we can to get people into the workforce, provide other opportunities for students, maybe alternative paths, maybe a 4-year degree is not the thing. Some of the CAPS programs and things that are going on in the school district, I think, help with that. But really, a great question, because there's a lot of work to do there, and I don't think there's a simple answer for it.
Could you repeat it for me?
Sure.
It's kind of a long question there.
Yep. As Cedar Falls continues to grow, how will you ensure that economic development benefits all residents, including renters, low-income families, and underrepresented communities, without pricing people out or deepening disparities? What specific policies or partnerships would you pursue?
Okay. One thing I'm very concerned with is our, what we call the developing code, where through the years with staff, our previous city administrator implemented changes that many call heavy-handed, and that drives up the cost of just developing a lot. A Cedar Falls lot is $100,000, $125,000. You can go to other surrounding communities and get $50,000 to $75,000. Right there, you're eliminating the lower and moderate income people in that sort of scenario. So we need to review the developing code. That's one of the big things I want to see happen. And we're in the process of doing that, but there seems to be resistance from the staff to change. They describe it, and it seems that developers are afraid to come forward and speak because of possible retribution. And we got to get rid of that cloud hanging over their head to speak freely and explain what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, starting with Mr. Nagel on this one. The Main Street reconstruction is a major project involving roads, utilities, sidewalks, bike lanes, etc. What lessons from that project should guide future infrastructure work in Cedar Falls?
My background by education is a structural engineer, so I can dig into the engineering side of it a little bit. I think a lot of the things that go on, you got to replace stuff, roads, sewers, all those things have a finite life. I think the key, and and whether this is something to learn or something just to go forward with, is being smart about the things we're putting in. You know, the roundabouts are a great idea. They help with traffic calming. You get rid of streetlights. You don't have the maintenance with the streetlights. There's all sorts of things. So just those innovative ideas to look at. You know, a lot of the things that they're doing with stormwater runoff. You know, if anything, I think the one thing that could be better, and the complaint that you do hear, is how long things take. And unfortunately, that's a real thing in the construction world. You know, but maybe the city could look at implementing liquidated damages on contracts or something like that, so they have a little bit more teeth to keep people on time.
Okay. Mr. Cruz?
Thank you. Some of the concerns I've seen, it's dramatically slowed building down there. There's uncertainty with the what do I call it, the character districts, trying to get them to mesh together with the old Euclidean zoning that's there, the old R1, R2, R3, and so on. So there's problems with that. There's uncertainty on the developers' parts to know what they can really do. They talked about a checklist that they were going to develop, which the checklist is nothing more than the city codes and ordinances. That's our checklist. Whether it's form-based zoning, which is what, they don't use that word anymore, but there's problems there, and before we expand it to further parts of the city, we got to iron out those details. As I said earlier, they take away privileges from people when they change the character district, the zones to a character district, and so on. So that's an issue that we got to deal with. Thank you.
And Mr. Manning?
Thank you. I would say that it really requires thinking outside the box. We're thinking still, our market is thinking that they can get a 100-foot wide lot for 100 feet of frontage for the $70,000, $60,000 to $70,000, and that's unfortunately not a reality. We'll have to, the city should help do some promoting of the existing lots. I also think in thinking outside the box, now this has been controversial, but the half curb on a property, if that's initially put in that way, I would suggest that the city of Rochester has several of those with the half curbs and whatnot, and that's all.
Thank you.
All right. Next question, we will start with Mr. Cruz. Continuing on a theme, what do you think is the #1 infrastructure issue facing our city?
It'll be the sanitary sewer expansion. There's going to be a great expense in that. We're working on it, raising funding, sinking fund to put aside money for that because of the EPA requirements and nitrates and phosphates and all the words I don't remember what the initial letters stand for, but making clean and safe water. That's by far the biggest issue. It'll be the most costly by far.
Thank you. Mr. Manning?
Would you repeat the question?
Sure. What do you think is the #1 infrastructure issue facing our city? Infrastructure.
Infrastructure, okay. I think we've done pretty well with that, but there's always more. The price of land has got astronomically high compared to other cities in Iowa, and to compensate for that, the city is, there's been discussion, nothing in formality, but to, again, to think outside the box and to come up with some different ideas. Rochester not only has the small curbs, but they have some, now get a load of this, they have wood basements. And that was very surprising to me, a place north of Cedar Falls having wood basements. And, but they are warmer. They don't have the sweat that comes off of the block, off the block type of paraphernalia. And so, oops, I must talk the longest.
There you go.
I'd have to agree with Councilman Cruz, or candidate Cruz in this case. The sewer plant, sanitary sewer is a big deal. It's expensive. All that legacy stuff is there. Everything goes there. The site's kind of landlocked. There's a lot of challenges there. And I think the biggest thing is it's, eventually it's going to hit capacity. And it is a huge, huge expense. I think there's a lot of things that can be done to help it along the way. And a lot of those things are being done, trying to control stormwater, keep stormwater out of the sanitary, the little things, but those are just kind of Band-Aids on a bigger problem. So I would agree with that sanitary sewer is a big deal down the road.
Okay, thank you. Starting with Mr. Manning, how will you consider climate change and other environmental issues as you make decisions about economic development?
Well, we're going to follow the lead of some of the other people where that's a more pertinent problem than what we're facing here. I mean, the last 3 weeks are the reason we live in Iowa. It's been beautiful. So we're not sure what's going to happen this winter time, but a lot of us are holding our breath on that, certainly. So I think there will be enough work on climate change that we can mirror what other people are saying or doing in their communities. And rather than reinvent the wheel, I'd like to lean on others that have had the same experience as we may see down the road. I don't think we're there yet.
Mr. Nagel?
I think there's a few things, and most of it's relatively low-hanging fruit. We can do what we can to encourage green development, use of green building materials and things like that, just things that help out on the front end. The sustainable construction stuff, I think, is a great thing to look at. There's all sorts of new products out there and things that more energy efficient, less waste on the front end, that type of thing. I think we also need to look at encouraging alternative forms of transportation. Whether, we do have a great trail system that allows people to get around, enhancing the trail system, encouraging people to ride their bikes. You see a lot more people around on e-bikes or e-scooters and things like that. I think all those things can help, but it's a lot of little things that I think can help, and a lot of them would really just be things that the citizens can do to help as well.
Mr. Cruz?
Thank you. There's been a lot of discussion over the last number of years about water retention off of construction sites and having control of that water as we get more extreme rainfall events, storms, cold weather, so on. Controlling nature is what we got to do. We got to build that into the design of neighborhoods. We've had cases where manhole covers were left open, and it messed up quite a few basements. Things like that we have to be aware of and work into our developing codes. You got CFU working all the time with your insulation factors, the R factors of buildings, windows, letting sunlight in and heating up the interior. All these things relate to climate change and what we can do in the construction side of things, and then recycling and the compost site north of town is very beneficial there for that. So we're doing those.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this question, we're going to start with Mr. Nagel. How do you evaluate the use of tax incentives or urban renewal for developers? What safeguards or performance metrics should be included to protect taxpayers?
I think the key thing there is, again, focusing on engaging the citizens in the transparency, making sure people know where the money's coming from, where's the money going, what are people really on the hook for? What benefit do we think we will have from putting these dollars out? Some of these are the types of discussions that we'll have to have when we're talking about, okay, how do we get some of these low-income houses online? We're going to have to incentivize those types of things. So I think it really comes down to just the transparency and engaging the citizens in that process so that everybody understands where the money's coming from, where the money's going, and how it's going to be utilized.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz?
Why don't you repeat it again just for fun?
Sure. How do you evaluate the use of tax incentives or urban renewal for developers? What safeguards or performance metrics should be included to protect taxpayers?
Okay. You evaluate, are the homes any cheaper? Do we have more low-income housing available because of the TIF program? If the if the developer is subsidized to build the infrastructure, the streets and the sewers and everything, but the home market value of the homes does not come down at all, it just promoted an easier sell, so to speak, for the developer to sell at a lofty price. So there has to be results in that housing, and then we see how much is being utilized by the public. And if we have that sector of the population actually buying into and moving into these subsidized LMI homes, low and moderate income homes that are built, that's what I'd look at, results.
Thank you. Mr. Manning?
The LMI stands for low and moderate income, if anyone didn't catch that. The tax incentives to do that, the land and the building is difficult, but again, I spent 32 years in banking, and we financed a number of construction loans, and for principal residences for the people to move into when the house was finished. There are things you can do to cut down on the cost of housing, and I've been working in the housing arena for the 32 years. In fact, I can go drive down Barnett Drive and point to the houses that we have financed, and there are ways to cut back or reduce some costs, and we'll continue to have opportunity to talk about that, I hope.
Okay. Mr. Cruz, we'll start with you. Kind of a big picture question. What are your priorities for spending in the city budget? And where would you be willing to cut or defer projects or services if needed?
Cutting, as many people, if they're watching the budget discussions, I'm always voting down the budget, cut across the board. It's the administration, it's the wish list of things that people want to do. It's hard to pick out one specific topic, necessarily one item. I could, cherry pick some things, but you got to look at what do we want and what do we need. That's how I look at the budgeting process. And it comes down to item by item. During the budget process, I asked the previous administrator to give us 6 or 8 or 10 things that we could cut, and he didn't do it the last couple of go-arounds. And so I'm kind of disappointed there. A lot of it has to do with the expertise of the directors and the staff. I can go down and drive around and say, well, we don't need a roundabout here for a while. Or I can say, we didn't need to put in a sidewalk here and there, but they have justifications, and then they bring that to council and we debate it. So it's an ongoing thing to push back.
Mr. Manning?
The spending on the budget, I've met with Jennifer Rodenhouse a couple of times now, and very, very intelligent woman. And when you ask for a copy of the budget, she gives you a booklet, and very detailed in that. I appreciated the time she spent with me, so I can better be an educated council person. The tax incentives may be helpful. We have to study that to make sure we know what's happening at the beginning of those, at the middle, and at the end, and how and when those properties come back on the tax roll. Now, the industrial park in Cedar Falls is an excellent example of a city, private, and public partnership to allow that to happen.
Thank you.
I think as far as priorities for spending, one thing I would support, and it doesn't need to be an enormous amount of money, but Parks and Rec stuff, the quality of life stuff, the things that make Cedar Falls a place where people want to live, I think are very important. the people that we can get to move in here that bring the jobs, that fill the jobs, all those things, that's a circular deal going around. Let's get the wages in here. Let's get the taxes in here. As far as cutting, I'll be honest, that's the type of thing where I'd really have to sit down and dig in. I'd be just making something up if I told you something right now. I think that's the hard part, and that's the part where people really need to spend the time and look and try to find those things that you can cut that don't feel like you're cutting something. And I think that's the challenge.
Thank you. All right, we're going to start with Mr. Manning on this one. What are your priorities for parks, recreation, trails, sidewalks, and pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure in Cedar Falls?
Thank you. That's a great question and something that's one of my passions. As I mentioned earlier, as president of the Cedar Trails Partnership, we were the group that put the signage out by the trails, 122 of them, the red and green signs that you see at different locations. And in addition to that, and knocking on doors, I was surprised how many people said, we need more baseball facilities. And they say, we go to Cedar Rapids, Coralville, North Liberty, Iowa City, and Des Moines on weekends. We never have a tournament here. And the tournaments, the amount of money that they must bring in at the concession stand and the registration fees from the different towns, different teams, is astronomical. And youth sports is one of the fastest growing arenas in our community. And we'll leave it at that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Nagel?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me, and a lot of it even happens without necessarily without a ton of support for the city. Cedar Valley Association for Soft Trails does a great job of getting people out, all seasons, and that's a volunteer-based organization. They raise funds from their members, and they're out there maintaining the trails and giving people a place to go out and be recreational. So I think all that stuff, though, the bike trails, organizations like CVAST, every single part of that I think is great. It helps quality of life, gets kids out, gets kids off screens, gets kids active. I've got two young kids, and some of the best days we have are out riding our bikes in the woods and things like that. So totally supportive of all things that increase quality of life.
Thank you. Mr. Cruz?
Thank you. To me, the biggest thing that I've heard and seen from the public on our park system and network is the place-to-play features for the special needs kids. We have them now in a few parks, but I think all the parks need to have these features. They don't seem like, I'm trying to think how to say this, that you think about when you ask the question, more trails, more bike, this and that and whatnot, but you get down to the time it takes to travel for a family with a special needs child to go to a park that's clear across town when they should have one right next to them. And every park should have some features of these various sensory things that they have. And I think that's really the quickest and easiest thing to really get a bang for your buck on park improvements and that sort of thing. Pickleball courts, people love them. Ball diamonds, we've heard that. We need facilities, and that's what we're finding in our study. Improve our facilities, keep people in town.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think this is going to be our last question of you. And let's see, if I've been keeping track correctly, I think it's Mr. Nagel's turn to go first. Does that sound right? Okay. What would you say is the biggest challenge facing Cedar Falls today?
I think the biggest challenge is probably somewhere rooted in taking care of the housing into things. There's a lot of houses that are for sale, but man, are they expensive. And I feel like that challenge, it's an important one because we don't want to increase that divide. But the challenge is also probably the hardest one to solve. because as some of the things we talked about, if you create incentives or you just put more money into the developer's pocket, how do you keep track of it? I think that's where the engaged citizens and doing the best we can to be transparent with whatever plans and incentives go into trying to successfully take care of that problem. But I do believe that's one of the biggest problems we face.
Very good question. The big thing for me is we need to simplify our codes and ordinances, our building requirements. We don't compete well against the small communities around us. I mean, we got a big city, we got a nice downtown, we got the Unidome and that sort of thing. But you're sitting with the little communities like Hudson, Dyke, New Hartford, LaPorte. They have their own quality of life, their own style for a small town, but their building regulation is dramatically cheaper. It takes months and months for a project to get going in Cedar Falls. And we could be building many more things if we simplified our building code and the requirements of that. It would make a huge, huge difference. So there has to be receptiveness by the staff to change and look at different things. That's by far the number of things. The rest of it we can figure out and allocate money to and go from there. So thank you.
The biggest challenge, great question. The biggest challenge is because so many people love the city of Cedar Falls, where we're at and where we appear to be going. And that's a challenge because they're going to expect services to increase over time. The pickleball thing was something that was citizen initiated with some help from the city then, as it turned out. And that's an excellent area to offer to our voters out there, our electorate. And as that's the biggest challenge, they want us to continue to provide those services, and baseball is one of the things I'm going to work on the most under the leisure services category.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, it's time for closing statements. So Mr. Cruz, if you'd like to kick
Okay,
us off.
thank you. I've had the honor of representing the 3rd Ward of Cedar Falls for the last 8 years and look forward to the opportunity to do so for another 4 years. With my background in business planning, I bring to the council an understanding of the concerns of people, what they want in life for themselves and their families. To enjoy a city that's diverse in business, social, recreational offerings, and cultural opportunities. Our citizens want to live, work, and play, and ultimately retire knowing their city is safe and secure around them. I may be elected to the 3rd Ward, but I represent the entire city in my discussions. Our business card says, our citizens are our business, and I strongly believe in that. I said earlier, as a financial planner, the city is my client. Individual people are my clients. I humbly ask for your vote November 4th. Thank you.
Okay. My closing remarks would continue to say what I've heard out on the marketplace. That's our residents. And the love for the city, when that comes out from people uninitiated or not requested, and they volunteer that, they're saying, oh my gosh, we do love this city and we like the security that it has, and we're proud of the new school. And we want to see things gradually grow, maybe at 2.5% or thereabouts. And in addition to that, the council has to be proactive on how they serve the citizens. We want to see a full service on that, and certainly, to sum it all up, there's a lot of fray on the left and on the right, and I don't want to be part of the fray. I want to just get things done. I'm going to stay away from the fray and work to satisfy and provide new opportunities for the citizens of Cedar Falls, and that excites me a great deal.
Mr. Nagel.
Thank you. As your Ward 3 City Council candidate, I'm committed to transparency, engagement, and common sense leadership. I'll ensure open communication so you know how decisions are made, actively listen through regular outreach, and deliver practical solutions for our businesses, families, and our future. I want to be a council member who puts the citizens first. No excuses, just results. Let's work together to keep Cedar Falls a strong and vibrant place where people want to live for our quality of life. Vote for Tom Nagel for Ward 3 City Council. Thank you, and have a great evening.
I'd like to thank our 3 candidates for the office of Ward 3 in Cedar Falls for participating in tonight's debate. Best wishes are extended to you on Tuesday, November 4th, which is Election Day. I want to encourage all registered voters who reside in Cedar Falls to exercise your right to vote, which is quite a privilege that's extended to us in our democracy. As a representative of the Northern Iowa Student Government, I extend my thanks to 2 nonpartisan organizations who helped sponsor this debate, namely the Women of Action and the Cedar Falls Waterloo branch of the American Association of the University Women of Iowa. I'm also appreciative of Dr. Allison Rank and Dr. Scott Peters for being our debate moderators. And thank you for our timekeepers, Vice President Gabriel Salazar, as well as Dr. Steve Corbin. Thank you. We would not be able to conduct this debate without the assistance of the citizens who submitted questions to be asked of our candidates. Thank you for your civic involvement. And finally, we could not conduct and broadcast this debate without the technical assistance from Denny Bowman, Supervisor of Cedar Falls Cable Television Channel 15. Thank you, Mr. Bowman. This concludes the debate broadcast. Once again, I encourage all registered voters to vote on Tuesday, November 4th, as to who you would prefer to be your voice in Ward 3. Good night.
Yeah.